Hello, everybody, and welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here, and I'm joined by Donald as usual, as well as returning guest Agile Tablet. So today we're just going to be shooting the shit, chatting a little bit. Before recording, Tabs and I were making dinner, and we had kind of a somewhat of a little adventure to get food on the plate. We were making buffalo chicken salad to make some sliders with that, and we had some trout that was half off at Aldi, so we had to cook it today, pretty much.
Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna be like, why are you telling them my bargain hunting secrets? But yeah, that makes sense. We had to make
Love
it
that
today.
half price meat. But yeah, so that's that. We kind of a weird combination, but that's what we were doing. And,
yeah, I planned the oh, also the slider rolls were half off, which is why I got them. And then I was like, oh, I can make some buffalo chicken salad. That might be good on, as sliders. But then I forgot that I had also gotten the trout. So I was like, well, I guess we have to eat both for dinner now because I already made the other stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that wasn't the best combination, but we made it work.
I thought it was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but the funny part was near the end we we were trying to broil the trout, on like a foil-lined baking dish, and there was enough fat that came out of the fish itself that it kind of pooled in the baking sheet, and then that caught on fire from the broiler.
Oh no.
So
Yeah. So
so
that was
Tom went to check on it and be like, "Is this cooked yet?" And it was just on fire.
so it was cooked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
it
were
was
also trying to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it was totally fine. Like no danger from the fire. It put itself out, and there was no problem with the fish either. It was fully cooked and not overcooked and not charred or anything like that.
Yeah, there's something up with the broiler because we were also broiling the sliders a little bit, like with the salad on it, with some cheese and stuff. And they were there for a minute, like literally just 1 minute, and somehow the slider buns had burnt on the sides. So
To be fair, they are brioche, so they're easier to burn than regular buns. But you're not exaggerating when you say like a minute. They burnt very quickly. The dinner was still good. It's making it sound like it was like just disaster after disaster, but it was all fine to eat.
yeah, it came out fine in the end, and even like the burnt brioche, it looked more burnt than it actually tasted. Like I think it just got darker than
Yeah.
than it really should be. But
nothing bad happened to the coleslaw or the salad.
yeah, the coleslaw was good.
So was this like a large mass of food? Like was it like a? It seems like a lot. I don't know. It's like, I don't know.
Like Tabs is doing like intermittent fasting, so by the time that we get to dinner, she is just ravenous.
Yeah.
And I tend to not eat a whole lot on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's just like I work early and I end up having a very small breakfast just because I'm rushing out the door, and then when I get back, I also just eat like a small amount just because I'm hungry enough that I just want to eat. And then by the time I get hungry again, it's like too close to dinner that I end up just waiting, and then I'm like really hungry. So we both just like really, really ready to.
Well, but okay, so to be fair though, dinner was supposed to be the chicken salad sliders with a salad, coleslaw, and fries. And then, which I don't think, I mean, that's like a big meal, but it's not like like an emperor's gorging, like you're gonna get gout type meal. But then the trout thing happened, and we just had to make it. So
yeah, we probably could have left out the fries. And
at this point, hindsight is 2020. So I didn't realize that at the time.
All right. So I just got word that Leo should be able to join us. So hopefully he can hop on here in a minute. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. So to give an update on my cooking, I bought a 12-pack of Alphabet Craft Dinner off Amazon for like really cheap. So I've been eating. It's got a great texture to it. I don't know. But,
what do you put ketchup in yours or anything like that?
No, I support ketchup in it, but I haven't eaten
Just
much of that
Canadian
lately.
solidarity kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good, but I just haven't been doing that just out of habit. But
You just do like the straight up, the classic.
yeah, sometimes I put like a little bit of extra cheese and some bacon in it and stuff. But
Oh, sounds good. I like a little bit of black pepper.
yeah, when I normally make pasta, I just put a little bit of pepper and butter and stuff. Now that's I don't know.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yep. So, but I have to. I don't know. I really have to. Kind of in a rut with things with that kind of stuff. I really have to get out of it, and I have to fight my tendencies to only eat alphabet pasta. But, yeah.
You know, there's always a place for it. You know, you can add other stuff, like you can have some broccoli with it or whatever, like to make it a more balanced meal. But I think there's always a
That's
place
true.
for alphabet pasta.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question. Have you ever heard of this Pakistani communist Taimur Rahman? I just got into listening to him on YouTube. He's an interesting guy. So I hadn't heard of this person when I saw this question. I looked at this a little while ago. I looked him up on YouTube, and it just seemed like a dude, like just some guy, like some random guy filming YouTube videos in his bedroom. He was playing guitar on one of them, and he mainly was talking about like secularism, and also it was a lot of the videos were in Urdu, so I couldn't, I don't speak Urdu, I don't understand that, so I don't know what to make of him. Sorry, that's maybe I was looking at the wrong channel or something. I don't know. Have you ever heard of this guy, Donald?
No idea. No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, Pakistani and communist, that's 2 strikes as far as. Okay. Is Baby Yoda an immense good that will save us all, or a creature of unspeakable evil that must be stopped at all costs? Apologize for the Baby Yoda question here.
Have any of you seen that show?
No.
I've been watching it. Yeah, it's okay.
Is it entertaining?
I don't know. I just do whatever anything else and other people are doing generally. So I'm watching it and I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. But it's I don't know. There's not really a lot to it. It's just kind of laid back, just kind of stuff. I don't know. It's not really because it's all like supposed to be like a space western kind of thing, I guess, right? So
is it bounty hunting stuff? Is it smuggling stuff? Like what is it?
It's bounty hunting, but I don't know. It's not a lot happens in each episode. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's really sort of takes its time and kind of builds up and stuff. And I guess that's fine, and even like it sounds like, I'm sure it is, like all of the dialogue of the main character, because he's wearing a helmet the whole time. It's just it's like additional dialogue, it's like additional it's ADR, like it's all done in post. So it's like him just kind of going like, people are like talking to each other and then his voice kind of comes on and they do it pretty well, but it's obviously just some guy in a booth like reading it, right? Like it's not like it's just him kind of saying it. And I don't know, it's like there's a lot of little things like that are just like, I'm like, oh, I don't even understand why this. And like Carl Weathers, I think his name is, right, like the guy that's like, and then you got a stew going or whatever, that guy, like he plays like a bounty hunter, like dealer, kind of like broker guy kind of thing. And I don't know, after Arrested Development I can't see him on that and be like this guy is like a clever bounty hunter, I don't know.
You got to think of him like in the Commando days,
Yeah, exactly.
And then Werner Herzog's in it, I guess, and he obviously has no idea what's going on about like the whole thing. He just like, he doesn't even know. I don't know.
I remember when the first like rumors of his participation surfaced, and he was saying this and that, and people were like, "Well, have you seen Star Wars?" And he was like, "No, I haven't. I haven't seen any of the movies. I haven't consumed any of the media." So it was almost kind of like, well, that might be cool because he's not bringing any like baggage to the role or whatever like that. But I don't know. Is he capable of playing someone other than his grandiose self?
No, he was fine in it. Like I can't.
Okay,
cool. It was just strange to. It's like it's I don't know. It's very uneven like that too. And like
Mm.
in the last one, oh, what's her name? Strangers with Candy, that woman.
Oh,
I can't
Amy
remember.
Sedaris.
Yeah, Amy Sedaris. She's in it now, and like she just for like one episode, and like she's just kind of like a comic relief character, obviously. So she's just kind of
Yeah.
there, and she's kind of like goofy and stuff. And it's like I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Yeah, and like and then they had this person who was like a. Anyways, I stopped watching it for like a few weeks because one of the characters' names in it was
Oh,
Cara
God.
Cara Dune, like Cara Dune, like is
Why
like
did you hate
desert.
that so much?
Cara, Cara Dune. It's like it's like it's like it's like Dune as in like desert and like obviously like the
Yeah.
like the this book whatever like that, and then Cara, and then she was played by this like person who I think is like I am pretty sure she's like a ladies UFC thing or something like that kind of thing, like kind of
Yeah.
mixed martial arts. So her acting is like first time on set kind of thing. It's like just kind of there's a lot of it is kind of like her being like a little bit. It's like 10% overacting or something, like just a little bit too. And her name's Cara Dune, so it's just
What
like
is so bad about Cara Dune? I just remember you tweeting about that being like, I can't watch this anymore. Her name is Cara Dune.
Because it's just obviously like one of those things where it doesn't make, I don't know. It's like someone like it's like 37 people at Disney came up with that name. Like just
Well, I guess.
every it's just like I don't know.
But like if you look at the rest of the names in the Star Wars canon, like and even the extended universe, like Dash Rendar and Kip Duron and
Yeah. Those are a lot better, I think.
Luke
those okay, so those
Skywalker,
are
I mean-
different. You like the canon ones more than, or I guess this is canon now because whatever that means. But you like those are okay. This one is a different sort of name.
Yeah, I think this one's leaning too much into I don't know. It's just there's a lot of it's just like they did some of this in the Rise of Skywalker too, where it's like almost like an homage to a different sci-fi series in a way, and it just annoys everyone kind of thing. It doesn't actually like it's not really an homage. It doesn't really do anything, but like that was actually one of the greatest. I don't know, like I like the story about Herzog, like that kind of thing, because they really are now. I guess because people eat it up, they just
Yeah.
there's just like a whole cottage industry now of fourth tier level stories about a movie kind of thing. It's like really like it's like it's like any angle they can get, they're just milking it.
Yeah.
So
when you were talking about when you were like, oh, I'll just watch anything if that's what people are watching at the moment. I over the holidays I saw my mom, and I don't remember how Witcher came up, but it came up in conversation, and she was like, I think I was just telling her what we had been watching recently, and she was like, "Oh, I think I tried to watch that." Presumably because it was just there, on Netflix or
yeah,
whatever. But she doesn't, she doesn't know the books, she doesn't know the games. She just tried watching it, and she like couldn't take it seriously at all, which
yeah,
totally makes sense. Like I didn't even think about that. Like someone who had never
yeah,
seen that character before, like she was like,
yeah,
"What is this? Ugh, why is he always talking like that?" Like she was just
yeah,
like
yeah,
laughing at it, like this is such terrible acting. And
I really don't like the voice that they have in the games and the show.
No,
It's
I
like
hated
Batman.
it. Well, that's the thing. Like now, I've almost become apologist for it because, like, I hated it in the game. I'm only familiar with 3. I don't know the other games, but I hated it there because it just does a lot of my pet peeves with bad voice acting in games. But then when it came time for my for my mom to be like, "What is this stupid voice?" Then I was like, "Well, that's how Geralt sounds, like that's just how he sounds." And then I realized what I was saying. I was like, "Of course, this sounds idiotic to someone who hasn't seen it before." Yeah, she couldn't take it seriously.
I have done the training missions or whatever. Witcher 3. I just got it like weeks ago, so I didn't really.
Oh, cool.
It's like all right, but the more I watch the show, the less I want to play the game. So I don't know. It's like it's just not really. It's just a weird thing, and people. It's kind of funny because I started watching it, and I was like, oh, this is a show for my IQ level. Like it's like just really. like really dumb, and I thought it would be fine. And then someone said like it's like shot in like out of different like disjointed timeline or something.
Yeah, it is.
And I was like, oh man, I can't keep up with that. That's too
Nah,
high IQ for me.
No, it's not one of those things of like it's not like Pulp Fiction where you start at one point and then you go back to it. It's not supposed to be like that. I think it's more inept than that. It's just like we've got some incidents that happened at different times and we're just going to kind of bum rush you with all of them at the same time. And it's up to you to figure out which one happened before the other. But there's no art to it. Like it's not there's no reason to at least as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
It
It's
doesn't
like
doesn't
they
seem to
forgot to put a timestamp at the beginning, like a little
yeah.
caption that gave you the year.
Yeah, usually shows that jump around like that will at least give you the little title card at the beginning of each new scene, you know? And it just feels like they forgot to do that. But it doesn't seem like it's like a narrative technique. It just seems like they forgot.
Yeah, that does not seem appealing to me. So I don't I don't know.
No, I mean it's not good, but it's also not like you don't have to like work super hard to understand.
Okay.
You know, you just kind of
Okay.
like go like, "Oh, I guess this happened before." Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
need
mean, the show is sort of like Xena or something. It's like the
Yes.
same level of
Yeah, which I don't like. I don't like those
No,
shows.
I never liked Cena or any of those things.
No.
Yeah,
No.
me neither. I pretty
Hello,
much just
hello
watched
from
through 'em because
Europe.
Oh.
Can anyone hear me?
Hello? Yeah, we
Hey,
got
it's the ghost of Leo.
Hello, the Love Cool movement is still alive all over Europe. Everybody's just not doing it too crazy.
What's
Leo,
up, Leo?
can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Turn your mic up a little bit if you can.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
there you are.
Perfect.
How you doing, dude?
Oh, I've just witnessed all the horrors of mankind today, and I'm ready to podcast.
we're recording already, so we're in the swing of things now.
Perfect. What are we talking about?
Well, we were just talking about The Witcher.
Leo immediately hangs up.
Have you seen that?
I saw some of the TV show. It looks like Henry Cavill's on some high quality trend to build up that V-shaped 70s back he needed for the role. If you need any help identifying steroids actors take for roles, you can come to my consulting firm.
Hey, can you speak a little bit louder or closer to the mic or whatever?
Is this better?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay, I just have to put my lips on it, like
You can't just turn up your mic volume or anything?
It's all the way up.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just saying. Well, we were also talking about the Star Wars show. The what's it called?
Mandalorian. Mm-hmm.
I think Terrence Malick should do a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
Like with Darth Vader.
That actually, that probably would be cool.
Darth Vader walking through a wheat field, like
yeah.
gently touching the the grass or whatever, and he's just like, "What is this life?"
yeah.
Or we could do the movie about the young Darth Vader and Shmi Skywalker in love, killing people at gas stations at like Badlands. Space gas. He did the New World too, so you could show like Ewoks looking in and marveling as big ships landed on their forest planet while they're wearing loincloths.
That would be good. Yeah, I really liked the New World. I know there was like a lot of complaints about historical accuracy and blah blah blah, but like that's not really the point of the movie.
No,
I don't think so.
True. When you were
Yeah,
watching,
right.
which I think is the point.
It seemed more realistic than a lot of movies about that period of time. You know what I mean? Like than a lot of kind of things that get made about that. So I don't know. I'm a big Terrence Malick fan, so I know that's sort of like on not very cool anymore. I see a lot of people talking crap about him, but I like him.
Everybody
too.
talking crap about Terrence Malick is on notice.
Have you seen the new one about the War Resistor?
No.
No, I think the last one I saw was the one with Ben Affleck and like the oil town or whatever, like the oil engineer guy.
I didn't see that one either, but yeah.
That was fine. It was really like paint by numbers Terrence Malick movie.
So Leo, how's it going? What's up?
Oh, not too bad. I'm just fixing up my resume to get a job at a mattress store, and soon all the mattresses you buy will have my face stamped on them. Seal. Kind of like how Snoopy puts his face on mugs and Christmas decorations, because he's in control of that whole process. What about you? Are you feeling good? No, please say that again.
No, I was asking if you were like turning your sights onto the mattress industry the way you have, couture and weapons manufacturing in the past. If that's going to be like your new deep dive.
I'm only going to write exposés about low quality foam used and Archie's, small Maine-based spring mattress manufacturers. You're gonna know all kinds of things about those things that you.
I'm
never
actually
wanted
extremely
to know.
interested in this. That's why I was curious. It is begging for an expose. It's a really ripe bullshit industry.
Yeah, there's more private equity money and I guess just general stock money just pouring into these terrible foam mattress companies than you could imagine. Casper spends more money on marketing than any company in the United States except for Apple.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What?
We should get them as a sponsor.
Yeah. Once I'll hook you up. Put in the code Don Tablet for 7% off.
Yeah. I don't know what's the idea there for the business model. I don't know, because it's just like
it's selling petroleum product in place of like a more hand. You need more human labor to make a sprung mattress. Plus, you need more raw materials with the metal for the springs and the foam and the cover. With an all foam mattress, you can just extrude it out and then flop it over and zip a coating on it.
But even with traditional mattresses, it seems like a racket. Like they, the mattresses are all marketed differently depending where they're sold. Like the same mattress will be sold under different brand names. The foam topper thing was a big thing in the years leading up to the 100% foam mattresses, where they act like the topper on one side of the mattress is such a amazing boon for comfort and your back, but really what it means is the shelf life of your mattress has been halved because you can't flip it over and do a little wear and tear on the other side. And it's just like impossible to comparison shop. It's just a ton of, and they're all overpriced, like crazy, like hundreds of dollars overpriced.
It's
I don't know.
been written about, but it's a duopoly controlled by private equity.
Oh, yeah.
Mattresses, they got rid of flippable mattresses ages ago. People do stuff like buying mattresses directly from Westin hotels because they have.
I tried to do that. Yeah, I tried to do that.
There are a lot of small companies that manufacture flippable sprung mattresses, but of course you have to spend in the thousands to get what used to be the standard level of quality.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's nuts. Yeah, I guess it's also
I don't know if we're being properly served by the market.
Isn't there something about like the finance side of it too? Like all the someone was saying, I don't know, there was some big story a few years back about like how like if you look at some street corners, there's like 4 mattress places on one corner or something. And
I remember
They were
that.
saying it was like all probably money laundering and stuff going on because it's like probably like a perfect front
that's
foot
a
or
big
something.
thing on Reddit or something. But I think it's just
Oh, really?
they just exploit the tax benefits of opening and closing a business and flipping the inventory to different shell companies. But
Oh, really?
I don't know too much about those.
Mm.
Oh, I was gonna say Bernie Sanders should get some kind of national, mattress thing going with the healthcare. Everyone gets like a good mattress. That'll be like preventative
That's
health
a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
With foam mattresses, the worst feature, and other people have said this, but the worst feature is sold as part of the appeal. They call it memory foam, which
Mhm.
Yeah.
the foam crushes down around where you sleep, so you just sleep in a hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
That always
This is
seemed.
high tech.
I don't know. Is that? That seems like it would be bad for your back. Is it?
It is. You
Okay. Okay.
you wanna
I remember
sleep
that from when I went
strong
through a.
support.
Yeah, exactly. No support. I went through a phase when I was much younger where I wanted to sleep on the floor all the time, and my mom thought it was weird, so she wanted me to get like something to sleep on the floor. So I got a futon mattress, which is just a sack filled with stuff, and it ended up throwing my back out a lot because, like you said, you just kind of create like a little divot in the middle, and there's no support for your back, and that's kind of what the memory foam seems like to me, but I don't know. I've never slept on it, so I don't know if it's good or not. But
Yeah,
it
that's
seems like it would
basically
be
what it
bad.
is. And
Yeah, that
they
hurts.
feel generally just awful to touch. You touch it and you don't tell my future CEO. You just press your body against it and it presses back with the memory of 1,000 strange molecules brings pushing you back up like in a traditional mattress.
How did people used to like sleep without why do we need so to be so pampered with like these mattresses? They have to be, you know what I mean? Like people used to sleep on like straw mats and stuff. Like how did they how did that work?
Well, in general, in the West, since like the 1910s, once we got rich enough to afford chairs and seated workstations, we've developed really terrible biomechanics, and
Yeah.
so our backs are bad and tend to be either a straight line or like a hockey stick instead of a nice S curve that could adapt to a more of a hammock sleeping style. And so we need big blocks of foam and steel to hold our bodies in a sort of comfortable way so we don't wake up in spasms. And if you want to know more about the terrible posture of Americans versus, say, a traditional African child, you should watch the French documentary called Babies that shows 3 or 4 different babies. One's French, one's American,
Oh, I
one's
think I
somewhere in
know this.
Africa, and one might be in China or Japan. And they've all got terrible, like their babies are slouching and tilting their heads like they're old men, except for the African baby whose mother keeps reinforcing proper body mechanics and holding its head up straight. And he's as you see it grow, you're like, oh, this kid's not gonna have a bad back at 25, and the rest of them are. And that is the story of the movie.
I should get an African mother.
Yeah, we all will. Once Andrews comes to power.
So, Leo, now that you're here, one thing that we kind of wanted to discuss, without getting into too much of a big debate about it, but just to kind of like clarify our thoughts on the matter. The news today with all the Iran stuff that's going on and Soleimani being killed and all that kind of stuff. Everyone's talking about that on Twitter, and there were some people that were eager to hear our thoughts on it. So I thought that it would be interesting to have you on to discuss that kind of stuff because I don't know, we don't always see eye to eye on on
Yeah,
Middle Eastern
yeah.
politics. So
I earlier today I called Tom the Oz Catergy of whatever section of Twitter this is.
right,
And if you get that reference, you'll understand, and you'll laugh, smile, nod, like, fave, subscribe, do it to the podcast now.
I just felt defensive when I heard that. I just want you to know that.
that's fine. I did not take offense by it.
Tom thinks Shia are idolaters, and that's a fact.
Oh my god.
He's never sad to see one die.
Oh my god. Stop it.
This is what these people think, okay?
Ah.
But yeah, I mean, Donald and I were sort of talking about it a little bit before we started recording, and what I was saying was that it was obviously a bad idea for Trump to do this. Like, this is not like a smart move, but and obviously, like, a possibility out of this is that there's like a big war and all this kind of stuff. I tend to think that that's probably not going to happen. I mean, we'll see. I don't really know. I'm not an expert on this stuff, and I don't think anyone really knows what's going on. A lot of things could happen. But like, what has been a little bit, it's been funny and irritating in different ways, is the way that people have been talking about Soleimani, particularly on the far left. I don't really pay attention much to what the neocon conservatives and what the center is really saying, because they're always pretty dumb. Like, I never really find much agreement with them. What the far left has been saying about Soleimani was that he was some kind of like champion anti-imperialist and all this kind of stuff, and that, oh, now that he's gone, or that now that the U.S. is attacking Iran, that now there's going to be all these deaths that are possibly going to start happening. And yes, that's definitely a possibility, that like there could be a lot more violence and escalation and stuff. But we've been seeing that for a long time, and Soleimani has been responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths in Syria. And I mean, whether or not you think that Iran is justified in the various ways that it's intervened in the Middle East, I think like there's an argument to be made about, well, they need to protect their national interests and blah 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 blah. But the way that it's been going on is it's really not so substantially different from like what happened with the Iraq War, right? Like, that was an anti-terror kind of thing that happened. We took out the big bad guy or whatever, in the same way that Soleimani helped us take out ISIS. And that's a good thing that happened. Like, defeating ISIS was obviously a good thing. And, I'm not trying to defend all the Sunni militias. Like, they're awful as well. But the Shia groups are really no better. And in a way, I kind of think it's good that a lot of these guys are. I mean, they had it coming, basically. They were not good people, and there's going to be bad stuff that comes as a result of this, just because of like the loss of organization among the whole network and everything. Yeah, I basically just don't feel any sympathy for those guys, and I would love to see Iran and the U.S. both kicked out of Iraq, and for Iraq to kind of develop its own self-determination and stuff, and to not be, I don't know, it needs to rebuild on its own terms and not be hampered on both sides. So I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it. I'm sure you have some counterpoints, Leo.
Well, in those terms, then if you wanted Iran out of Iraq, that was happening organically, and Trump just made that basic impossibility by killing Soleimani and killing Muhandis from the PMU. And I mean, however, whatever you think about those guys, they are the ones who stopped ISIS from taking over Iraq and killing, scores more people. And the same thing goes for the various Shia Afghan refugee paramilitary groups they sent to Syria to fight the various, foreigners of many rainbow coalition nationalities in Syria. So I think that what will happen is that the PMU will get a little bit stronger as they were getting weaker in Iraq, and I think that Iran is just going to ramp up its support for its various groups. Once the Houthis showed that they could take out the entire Saudi oil delivery infrastructure, it was basically the end for any kind of big moves. It's just gonna be this kind of. Can't you imagine like the inside of the White House? These sniveling types are like, "Oh, we got a chance to get him with the throne, and it's only one guy, so there's nothing they're gonna do." And so they'll kill some American general somewhere, and somebody will get upset, so they'll drone strike somebody else will get killed, but nothing ever escapes the 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 limited escalation because it doesn't benefit.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think that seems pretty reasonable. I think it's possible Iran will like strike Saudi oil stuff, and that's probably not a good thing because that's just going to start, back and forth. If Saudi loses its oil, extraction and all that kind of stuff, that's not what I'm upset at. That's fine. I don't care. Those guys can screw off. But like, if things start getting really hot between Iran and Saudi, that's not going to be good for a lot of people. That's going to lead to a lot of deaths. So I don't know. I'm hoping things stay kind of localized.
Saudi has to they have to stay in their place because they're so reliant on a few pipelines and a couple of water desalination plants. And if Houthi can shoot those with missiles, Iran can completely obliterate those past repair, and that means the country is dead. So Saudi can't do anything in the open really to oppose them.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hoping is that with the whole like Iranian network decapitated at this point, it's in the immediate fallout is probably not going to have any good effects in terms of like sectarian violence and whatnot. But those guys were responsible for so much in the past like few years. I hope that starts to fade away a little bit and that we kind of see a shift in the nature of the way that the politics works itself out there. Although I don't know, it's very hard to be optimistic about any of this stuff.
Yeah, it seems like there's some kind of Iraqi nationalism that's not Ba'athism growing out of this whole, the ISIS catastrophe and they had to rewrite the parliament because it was written so corruptly by us on behalf of Iraq.
Yeah,
I think it'll lead to something more like a federal Iraq with a really actually powerful president and Kurds not being able to veto everything and Sunni represented, but kind of being resentful that they're gonna get stuck with the bill because of they were Saddam's people, in the same way that if Syria had gone the other way, the Alawites will get stuck with the bill.
Yeah, maybe. We did an episode with Seamus recently. Seamus Malek Afsali. I hope I'm getting his name right this time. He was talking about the protests, and this was all before these strikes happened and stuff. And he was kind of describing what he was seeing there, and that it seemed like there was not a lot of sectarian rhetoric around any of the protests in Lebanon, Iraq, or in Iran.
Right. And it was just about how fucking corrupt these governments are.
Right. Yeah, and so that's a I don't know if there's any reason to be optimistic. It's that seems like a good thing. There was another thing I wanted to mention since I think this is like a common way of thinking about things on the left is that Iran somehow represents all of the world's Shia population and their political interests and whatnot, and I think that's really misguided.
It's kind of a think tank idea to blame or to claim that all Shia are controlled from Baghdad, like it's like a Cold War thing. All Russians are under the sway of the Politburo.
Yeah, like whether you see it in a positive or negative, right? Like some people kind of have this view that like, oh, the Iranians and Hezbollah and all these types of groups are the good guys, and therefore all the Shia are like these natural allies to anti-imperialism and communism and stuff. And that's not really. I don't think that the average Shia really sees things that way, and the average Shia probably does not really feel much affinity for the Iranian state, even inside of Iran. I don't think it's quite as like it's not that their religion and that political movement are so closely tied as a lot of like Western folk tend to think. Most
the
Shia
only
follow Sistani instead of Khamenei. So
right. The only really close the really close link is between Hezbollah and the Iranian state. Everybody
yeah, for
else
sure.
is more of a satellite. And like obviously the Houthis weren't close at all until the war, forced them closer because they follow a whole different branch.
Yeah, they're more interested in bringing back this like emirate monarchy sort of system, which it doesn't really jive with whole Islamic Republic thing.
No, it
Um,
doesn't. They're
so
tough.
yeah,
Maybe they'll do it. Maybe we'll have Houthis in charge of Tehran and Baghdad for 2022.
that would be pretty wild. Yeah, I don't know.
Running wild banners with a lot of text. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I guess my only take on the whole march to war sort of stuff that people have kind of driven as the central takeaway kind of thing is that it's sort of hard to predict either way anytime when you kind of get into that stuff, because there's always, if you look at it on paper, there's always really, really good reasons why,
Why a
it
war
should
could
be.
happen.
Yeah, or I would even say like that's true, that's part of it, but you can usually kind of say, okay, it won't happen because of all these interests at play. Like you can
Mhm.
always say that. You can always say, oh, America ideally wants to be able to trade with Iran, so they want to stabilize things, and that's pretty much like the standard sort of career bureaucrat at the Department of Defense or Department of State is going to have that kind of even keel attitude kind of thing. If we need to, not rock the boat too much and don't do anything crazy, we have to stand up for ourselves, but not really try to, like it tends to
Yeah.
be the more extreme stuff tends to be people that set up their own little kind of, cabals in the White House kind of thing, right? Like they try to,
Right.
create like their own little intelligence small groups and stuff and just really push these extreme kind of acts. But the problem is that, so in a theory, then it's like war is always irrational at some level because of that, right? Like, and
Right.
but irrational things happen all the time. That's the problem. Like
Yeah.
it's like, and if you can kind of, I mean, I think the Iraq War is probably a great example for something like that, in the way that, if you had like people like Snowcroft and all these people before the Iraq War saying, well, obviously an invasion would be a terrible idea for American interests or something like that kind of thing, right? Like you had all these realist kind of people saying, oh, this would be a terrible idea. And then you had the mass protests and all that kind of stuff. But it still happened, right? It still happened even though it was a bad idea. So
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. That's why it's hard for me to kind of, I don't
Yeah,
know.
you can't necessarily just brush it off as saying,
Yeah,
oh, it's just gonna be a tit for tat, because
sure.
you never know what kind of the thing that I think we've learned most from Pizzagate is that there are just various webs of control that
Yeah.
exist throughout institutions and across boundaries, and you never know which one will get enough public momentum to try and
Yeah.
grab whatever it is they want to grab for whatever nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
like,
isn't that also the reason that that everyone jumping to the conclusion of all out land war
Yeah.
is also like not, that's not a foregone conclusion.
Sure.
And a lot of people act like it is, but I mean
Yeah.
for kind of similar reasons,
Yeah. It's frustrating because it doesn't give you like predictive value at all. It doesn't say,
Yeah.
it's going
Yeah.
to lead to war for sure, because that's not really the conclusion. It just means that you don't, like, I don't know. It means that, like, that's all it really
Yeah.
can mean. And
Yeah.
I think that there's some level of that too. Sort of a second point, but kind of related, is that you do have this tendency to then. I feel like the view of Iran that a lot of people have doesn't really treat them as. I mean, it's always like a joke, like you're denying them agency or something like that. But I do think it's true at some level that people have this idea that, like, as soon as Soleimani died, there was this kind of, this it like, obviously the it was a big deal thing was fine. Like that's, I agree that like it was a big deal, but people immediately are like, oh, now they're gonna have to attack us back or something, and there was a lot of accounts kind of being like, we've stirred up a hornet's nest kind of thing and all that kind of thing. I really don't like that assumption that's kind of going in there of you're treating these people as if they're just like a
dogs
wild
to
animal or
rile up.
something. Yeah, like a wild animal or something that like you kind of got a
Really,
lot of that in.
The truth is that in Iranian action, they've been incredibly patient, and they just
Yeah.
wait for the exact moment when they can take something big and not face any repercussion because of whatever the prevailing circumstance is.
Yeah, I think they've gotten pretty used to being able to push things and push things and push things without suffering a lot of pushback. And this is like a really big pushback on a lot of their expansionism. And it'll be interesting to see whether they are like, okay, we get it, we'll kind of cool it, or whether they are not going to give that up. And I don't know. I tend to think that they probably are not so easy to give up on things.
I feel like if anything, it's the other way around because the United States is the big mover that they would probably want to cool things off for a bit and just, you know, be like, okay, we got to keep the long-term thinking here kind of thing, right? Like we don't, it's not like like if they did do spectacular attacks coordinated across the region or something like that, that would probably be a mistake, right? Like it would probably not be to their advantage. But at the same time, again, it's one of those things where, you know, stuff like honor and loyalty and stuff really does matter to a lot of people. It's not like, I don't know. I mean, one of the reasons why this is happening is because there are people in the American elite that have never forgiven the embassy bombings, even, right? Like it's just like
that really sticks. I mean, those guys are in their 70s and 80s. They're pulling strings, and they'll never forgive the embassy bombing, even though whatever justification we had, you know, I was part of the team that planted the bombs. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that our friend in Iraq reactivated his militia. So maybe we could have some big clash that would result in the withdrawal of US forces. Some people, when the very first reactions were like, "Oh, this is part of Trump's plan to get around the neocons. He's gonna stir up Iraq, so we have to pull the troops out, like he wanted to do in the first place." And that tends to not be the truth. Like he sometimes accidentally accomplishes the reverse, you know, sort of isolationist goal, but it's only after a bunch of killing and proclamations.
It's funny though because Trump also did this thing. You know, just a few hours ago he released that tweet that said, you know, we'll attack 52 targets in Iran based on the 52 hostages that were taken in the 70s and stuff. And it's like, it's funny because Trump can kind of keep a track of stories as much as a lot of like the average voters do or something, right? You know what I mean? It's like, like and that kind of thinking of 52. Yeah.
The hostages, and they're humiliated by it. It's he's so much better at that than other politicians.
Sure. Yeah, like it's funny because Obama clearly was pitched directly at like op-ed writers kind of stuff, right? Like everything he did was about norms and the, you know, the right policy for the right time and all that, and he really cared about what those people thought. And Trump is pitched directly at like actual voters. That's the, you know what I mean? It's like, it's amazing that difference. Yeah.
That's one of the things where you see people like calling on Twitter for Bernie Sanders hasn't called it an assassination yet, as if it's going to change his political appeal, whether he supports the resistance axis or just says people, we aren't at war with this bad or something. Whether that's going to make a difference.
Yeah. And it's funny because it makes me think that a lot of stuff in the kind of intellectual debates kind of side of it, like the low level, like magazine, newspaper kind of debates, a lot of that is politeness. It has nothing to do with actual policies as much. It's more kind of like, did you say the right word at the right time kind of thing? You know, it's like
Tea Party shit.
Yeah,
that's the world they know.
Yeah. It's very strange. I don't know. I mean, that is one of the positives of Twitter is that in some ways is that it has undermined some of that decorum kind of stuff. But I'm not sure if that's, you know, it is one of those things where if it keeps going down that direction, that's not necessarily healthy. It would be better to have decorum and good policies or something, right? So
I don't know how far-reaching that is, though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how
right.
how much beyond just Twitter sees that underscore.
Yeah. Sure.
I think Trump has a lot more to do with like the widespread
Mm,
nature of that.
Yeah,
kind of
that's a good point.
effect.
Yeah.
I like Zizek talks about this a little bit. He says that it used to be that the left was the ones with like the dirty jokes and like saying all like the foul stuff to kind of like undermine the stodgy like conservative establishment, and now it's like flipped where the
Yeah.
conservatives are the ones that are being like foul and vulgar, and so the left should like stand up and represent like moral decency and stuff like that. And I think you can kind of do a little bit of both, where you don't need to. That doesn't mean that you just play nice and you just like stick to etiquette and you don't really say anything or whatever. You can kind of be like decent and also not have to do that kind of like Tea Party
Sure.
politeness,
It's funny. At first, I thought, yeah, you mean Tea Party as in.
I mean, like
Yeah.
not like the libertarian Tea
Sure.
Party,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
like a Victorian,
Yeah.
Tea
Just
Party
to,
kind of
just to clarify. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about like that tweet you're talking about with Trump, he said he was going to strike Iranian cultural sites. I think we need to stand up and support the moderate cultural sites. And
Yeah. Yeah.
oh boy.
Yeah.
We need to support the smoothie centers in
Right.
Tehran.
Yeah.
The mosques, get rid of them. You know why? Marxist Leninism.
That's
Religion,
right.
opiate of the masses. I support the bombing.
I said if my tweet about that was I said that if Trump bombs the mosques in Iran, then Iran will bomb the mosques in the United States, and then where will Trump supporters be?
Bomb the mosques, radicalize the moderates. The
Final jihad.
Yeah. Just as last thing on that, I do think that I think that targeting Muslims by blowing up their mosques in Iran would probably be a bad idea. So they should probably blow up, like some of the churches and synagogues too, or something.
Some of those damn Baha'i temples, get them out.
Yeah.
What would make me upset was that if the United States was to make Muslims so angry that they were to cause an external threat to the security of China, and China would need to build a massive surveillance apparatus and re-education camps for local Muslims. That's what would piss me off.
Good times.
Yeah, I mean, one thought that I've had about all this is like,
No, I have a question.
yeah,
What
go
do you
ahead.
guys think about Carl Jaw's take on the re-education camps in Xinjiang?
I don't know what
Uyghurs?
his specific take is, but I imagine that it's some kind of Chinese nationalist whitewashing of the whole thing. So I don't think very
Yeah.
highly of that guy.
Yeah, he's really annoying. He's gotten really annoying. Taking his shirt off and
Like dancing with
posting,
hookers
like-
by the pool and stuff.
yeah, it's just like, come on, man. At best, those places are like American Indian schools where they sent kids to take their culture and language, and at worst, they're prison camps. Like, let's just be honest.
Yeah.
about it.
At worst, it's like Holocaust level stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going on in them. It could be really, really bad.
Yeah.
In the United States, we bear fault because we worked with Turkey and Saudi Arabia to help radicalize Uyghurs and to use them as a lever against China, like we do all across Central Asia and have been doing since the 80s, the 70s. But it doesn't excuse China for imprisoning an entire population.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a lever they've been. I think what like the CIA and whatnot, what we tend to do is find instances of what our rivals are doing that we can like highlight as like, well, look how bad these guys are. And I don't know what we've actually done to. Yes, there's some like
Well, there is-
radicalization in
we
the
have
Uyghur
done it
community,
because-
but that probably has more to do with the fact that they're being colonized, just like the Palestinians are. Like there's radical elements in the Palestinian community because they're being colonized. I don't know how much it has to do with like CIA or whatever.
Sure, you get a balance of it, but there are direct links.
Yeah, sure.
There was a pipeline of Uyghur fighters that Turkey set up, and they were transiting through Thailand to
Yeah.
Turkey to Syria, and Thailand stopped it either at their own behest or China's behest, somebody's behest, and that's
Were
when
they
that
Uyghur or
shrine
Tajik?
bombing. Uyghur.
They were Uyghur?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a different thing for Turkmen from separate people, but they were using Thailand as the transit point for Uyghurs and some others. Anyway, that's why they had that shrine bombing in Thailand, and the operation was allowed to continue at a smaller scale.
Right. I mean, obviously that's all bad stuff, and I'm not trying to defend any of those like terrorist activities or whatever, but I don't think that represents what the Uyghur population in general is
no,
about.
I'm not
you know
saying.
what I mean?
I'm just saying it just gives them a convenient excuse for when they want to round up somebody and put them in a detention camp.
Yeah, that's the war on terror. That's kind of what it's done for everybody. Is it kind of giving them an easy excuse to use to accomplish whatever they want to.
I've heard though that sort of like one of the framings that I've heard that made sense to me too is that you can't understand it as just like concern around Islam and Islamism and stuff in China, that it more relates to like the way that people experience it and is kind of thing is more closer to just straightforward racism kind of thing, like just a racism of the Han majority towards the like Turkic kind of peoples and stuff. And obviously like that whole identity is being contested too. It's not like, I think there is this danger that people think that if it was independent or more autonomous and actual had like real control or something, that it would naturally be like some sort of jihadi haven or something kind of thing, And there always has been a parallel, or at least it's one of those things where anywhere else it's the same as like Palestine in that way too. That like there is like a Turkestan movement, right? Like it's like the either a regional identity with the other Turkestans, or as like an East Turkestan, like a more of a nationalism kind of thing, right? But like it's the idea that it's because it is one of those things where if the war on terror wasn't there, you might have some of the same kind of dynamics in a different strategy or something. I think that in a certain way, I don't even know if it would have traction as that we would talk about it as much in the West, because it wouldn't just it wouldn't make sense to us as much. It would be more kind of I don't know, like a straightforward kind of racism or something that doesn't get the same kind of reportage or something. So I don't know. When I was there very briefly, I did have that kind of sense that it was just it was like a overlay of Chinese society on top of Turkic culture kind of thing, right? It felt like a distinct kind of new society being built through colonization. But obviously that's just and at the time I had no previous knowledge of it, right? Like I didn't know really much about what was going on and all. That was just my visceral experience of it in 2005. So when that was a huge push at that time, the Develop the West campaign and stuff, where say they were sending, that was, like they were sending, say, university students out west as like internships and stuff, and all this other kind of development aid and things too within China to try to integrate these frontier regions into, because obviously almost all of the growth was on the coasts, and there was this concern of inequality and stuff. So yeah, I don't know.
Xinjiang has a Volkswagen factory that's the furthest automotive factory from any port or infrastructure, because they did a deal with the Chinese government where they got to build 2 in normal areas because the cars are profitable there, but they had to build one right in the middle of Xinjiang so they could say they're giving jobs to the Uyghurs.
That's actually, I mean, I won't get into it too much because we're kind of off track maybe a bit, but like that was one of the big things so one of the reasons why Mao's kind of economic development was it's hard to kind of compare in any way, is because he was convinced obviously that they were going to get invaded. He thought that they had to almost all of the economic growth was focused into like trying to have villages be self-sufficient so they could produce their own even like weapons and stuff, and like they built like a lot of factories underground and stuff, and they're really like it was comparable in some ways to Androhaja, kind of in that mentality of like siege mentality. But we don't really that doesn't really come across in the West, I don't think, as much. But it does in its own way, but they think more ideologically, not like physical infrastructure. And so the interesting thing is that like a lot of these places in the West and central kind of China, where they were like the focus of development at the time because they were very important strategically to Mao. And then when Deng Xiaoping took power, he just basically said, okay, all we care about basically is the coast now. So they just dropped all of that stuff. And so I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting in some ways, like that then that just kind of swung completely that direction, and then they kind of went back to it was almost like an afterthought of, oh yeah, we need to not have so much inequality that the country just is not viable as a unit kind of thing. So I don't know. I think that's interesting, but yeah, I think that whole hidden history kind of stuff of like underground factories and distributed networks, like the third front kind of like production and all that is really interesting. I don't know, because it's not we don't really think about that kind of thing. I don't think in like say the United States or anything like that, right? Like the United States has been so impervious to bombing basically that the idea that the idea
of,
it's more
actual defense and like defense from a bomb dropped on you or a shell dropped on you doesn't come to mind. The only defense our cities and infrastructure are planned around was nuclear defense. They promoted suburban development so we could spread out in case of nuclear attack.
Yeah. So, and all they really care about is generally like congressional districts and stuff like that kind of thing, like trying to get a military base and a senator's sort of like a rural state or whatever.
They can dump as much PFOA into the local water system as possible.
Yes.
Speaking of colonization, I got this great book. It's called Al-Jabarti's Chronicle of the French Occupation. And he was an Egyptian religious scholar who just wrote about what Napoleon and the French did during their invasion. And I dog-eared a few pages if you want to hear a few funny things from this book. He said one of the most repulsive things the French do is that whenever they have to perform an act of nature, they do so wherever they happen to be, even in full view of people. And he goes away as he is without washing his private parts after defecation. If he is a man of taste and refinement, he wipes himself with whatever he finds, even with the paper with the writing on it. Otherwise, he remains as he is.
Disgusting people.
He says sometimes one of the women goes into a barber shop and invites him to shave her pubic hair. If he wishes, he can take his fee in kind. And another disgusting thing is that it is their custom to shave both their mustaches and beard. Some of them leave the hair on their cheeks only. And they don't shave their heads or their pubic hair, which is disgusting. They mix their food. They lay on pillows which are strapped to their backs instead of properly sleeping in houses. It really just goes on. It's a very entertaining book.
Yeah, there's a good number of texts written by these like medieval Islamic scholars who, these guys were from like the upper classes, right? So they're like hoity-toity even within their own cultures, and then they're looking at like soldiers and like traveling merchants and stuff from other places and kind of
Europeans are the most disgusting people ever created. Right. It's great. It really makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's really funny to kind of see, because we're used to seeing that from like the Western colonial perspective, and we have like a lot of context around that. So when it's like these Arab or whatever Islamic guys looking at like these different cultures, it's just like a different view of it. And what's really funny to me about especially that first thing you read, all of those things that he mentioned are specific violations of Sunnah. So he's like going through, like, you're not supposed to defecate where anyone can see you, and if you wipe yourself, it has to be with these things, or it's all this kind of funny stuff.
he talks a lot about the French decrees of invasion, and it's funny the rhetoric they used. Like Napoleon writes that the French are all Muslims and all believe in God, and they're great friends with the Ottoman Sultan, and he wants them to be there. So just turn over these Mamluks who we know you hate. We know you guys hate the Mamluks. So just turn them over to us, and we're gonna run things for the Sultan, and he's fine with that. So turn over your guns and ammunition, point out any Mamluks to us, and we'll leave you alone. And if not, we'll burn your village. And then it just turns into the normal colonial thing where they tax everything and people get upset.
One of the things that I like about Ha-Joon Chang's like the Korean economist, whatever, he has a funny thing in his books that he does sometimes where he quotes selections from descriptions of economies in Germany and Japan from before, like from the early 20th century or from late 19th century and stuff, or something like that, right? Where he talks about all the different countries that are like highly developed now, basically, and shows how people, like observers, would talk about the people there. And it's always like the same kind of stuff that you would read now about poor countries kind of thing. It's like these people are, Germans are so lazy, they can't do any technical work, they can't do anything, and stuff. I don't know, it's a good reminder of like, how these people look at, how like any sort of like broad statements that you make about people are yeah, I don't know. It tends to be a lot. I don't know. I like that. Yeah, there's no.
There's a lot of discipline that's required when you want people to stop being kind of happy peasants and turn them into capitalist workers. Michael Perlman's History of Capitalism has a lot of good stuff about the various measures they used in England to get the peasants off the land and into the factories.
Yeah.
There's some great descriptions of Korea or the state of South Korea after World War II when they were our grand ally against the Soviet Union in the North. Their number one export was human hair, and their number two export was fish. They just had no modern economy at all. The industrial economy was in the North.
That's actually, it's funny because it's the same thing in some ways about as war or something like that, is that there's a lot of things that look very irrational on paper, but then if you kind of do them, and Korea is a really good example of that because, they're like, let's build a steel industry or something like that. And it doesn't, if you kind of look at like the mechanics of it, it's like, it doesn't make any sense because it's almost like it just, you've got to import huge numbers of things to make it work. And they didn't have any real basis for it in a lot of ways and stuff. And I don't know, it just, but it worked out, now they're kind of hollowing out because they've been sort of neoliberal hell, but like, yeah, it's
they had a full-blown industrial policy and it worked, which is what I think the people who talk about politics and the economy in America, the ones who are serious and who I like, seem to talk about how important it is to actually have an existing industrial policy other than make it as easy as you can to offshore a factory to the benefit of my step uncle Larry. Shout out to Larry.
Yeah.
All right. Should we kind of wrap up this discussion of politics and history and stuff and get to some of these questions?
Sure.
Okay. So we got a question here. Can we really trust someone who likes foods called buckwheat and pizza salad, especially if they're Swedish? Buckwheat's like a legitimate food, I think. Pizza salad is just coleslaw minus a few ingredients.
Wait, is this a Tom Tablet household dinner? What is this?
No, someone is referring to Julia on Twitter. I don't know if you know her, but she is a Swedish person and loves to have buckwheat porridge for breakfast and eats pizza salad with her pizza, as most Swedes do. And it's just, pizza salad is just like Tom said, it's like it's basically like shredded cabbage with a little vinaigrette dressing. And I don't know about most, but a lot of places in the world, pizza, like American style pizza, is very rich for them. So they'll have, like in Korea, people have kimchi or pickles with pizza.
Oh, so you need a palate cleanser.
Exactly. You need something like sharp and acidic to kind of cleanse from all that grease. So in Sweden, it's pizza salad. So
In
yeah, those are
Germany,
both totally fine
they'll just
foods.
crack an egg on a pizza and
That's
cover it
good.
with these incredibly slimy green peppers.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that, but
The
egg on
traditional,
pizza is good.
yeah, that traditional German diet is very healthful. I think my family, my mom's side of the family has polycystic kidney disease, where it basically, if you Google it, you can see a cut open kidney. It looks like it's full of marbles. And my mom just happened to her numbers were going up for the kidney disease, and she just happened to meet this little old German lady where she lives, and they became friends because they're both kind of 1970s 1970s kind of new age hippies in that sense. And my mom
Mhm.
started eating all this strange like mueslis and weird very tiny dinners that this old German lady ate, and all her kidney numbers have gone great, and she has got no risk of kidney failure now. So I
Wonderful.
support the traditional European pizza salad.
That's the kind of stuff that my mom eats as well, and that's like what I got brought up eating.
Oh, right, because of the Finnish thing.
Yep.
So a key part of this whole mythology that most listeners probably won't know is that when Julia visited the United States, she brought in her backpack buckwheat with her, and because she is highly committed to the buckwheat lifestyle, and I don't know, I find that very, very highly respectable because I could see doing that too, like bringing I would love to be able to do that for like China or something, just
Yeah.
bring a palette
Alphabet
of
pasta.
food. Yeah, alphabet pasta, get it, bring it with me, and then people would be like, "Do you want like dumplings?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm gonna have this." Yeah,
No, this is much
I know.
better.
Yeah. I'm gonna have pizza pops or something. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Next question: is Darwin the monkey actually stylish but illegal?
So this is the IKEA monkey.
The IKEA monkey.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I read that like there's something going on there where like he lives at this shelter now, whatever, like a reserve, and
a group
he
home.
yeah, exactly, and apparently he was having some behavioral issues, which I guess like is probably pretty natural after your owner is like a psycho, basically, because she I don't know, I don't know, you're not supposed to have a monkey just hanging around like that.
He's just one of those monkeys raised like a human baby that
Yeah.
grow up to be ferocious and attack eyes and genitals.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I mean, it was a wonderful moment in time seeing that little guy bouncing around. I don't know. That was like the first time that I got really committed to a particular meme that like stuck with me for weeks and weeks that I really loved, and I don't know. So yeah, happened in like 2011, 2012, something like that. Yeah. So
I still associate it with you. I
Yeah.
kind of feel
Yeah,
like you
me
adopted
too.
it.
Me too.
our friend Nash made me an avatar with that. Yeah. So
Right.
with me
Yeah.
and me on the train with the little IKEA monkey and stuff. So
I think in
Yeah.
a 12 Monkeys scenario, if a Brad Pitt-esque figure were to develop a bomb that kills only humans, we would see the IKEA store taken over by monkeys.
yeah.
And they could, they'd pull the blankets over themselves as they slept and stuff like that. They keep
Sure.
some of our habits like Planet of the Apes, but be a little bit wilder.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is: when I block someone on Twitter, I mentally replace the word block with ban in my mind. I pretend that I'm banning people from my website. Should I kill myself?
Don't do it. The Marines need men.
Yeah,
That's right.
I don't think it's healthy to think of yourself as a mod. because like it's just I don't know.
Yeah,
You don't want to support mod culture and mod
that old
thinking.
Marxist saying, "Kill the mod inside your head."
Yeah,
That'll
exactly.
make 68 then.
Yeah. So I don't know. You don't want to get down that road, or else you just kind of you start to cancel people and write articles for like Jezebel about how like
How J.K.
someone reply.
Rowling
Yeah,
is a very bad man for killing the IKEA monkey with rhetoric, that kind of.
exactly.
Okay. Next one here is a friend of mine recently had some major struggles: addiction, jail time, unemployment. A year ago, he had pretty boring liberal views and read sites like Vox and 538. I've always had a passing interest in the history of the left and got him listening to some leftist podcasts. In less than a year, he's gone from telling me Marx was proven wrong to defending Stalin and Mao. Should I feel guilty? I've not read much Stalin, but it seems weird to defend some of his worst offenses.
I think that's just the type of guy you want on the front line. Ideological movement, like that guy was born to be cannon fodder for somebody.
I don't know.
So, what you're saying is he should try to like instrumentalize this and use him,
Exactly.
like,
Use
build a
him
cult.
as a tool, like a Dracula would in one of his macabre plans.
It sounds yeah.
Start a cocaine ring or something.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I'm full of them tonight, Leo.
To do that.
I think it would make more sense for him to just kind of stand in a sort of warehouse of some kind, just like with a gun, just standing there for hours on end, is kind of like a PC guy kind of thing. Doesn't ever actually do anything, but just kind of stands there. And if you kind of like go near that location, he kind of spawns and just kind of stands there. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, should he feel guilty? I don't think so. It's not really your fault if someone is.
This guy seems to be a real Pepe Le Pew of ideology. If he
Yeah,
smells
I was
any,
gonna
he's
say you could
gonna
have
follow it with
put
hearts
anything in that
popping out of
place
his
and he would
eyes.
be gung ho about it. So no, yeah, exactly.
I think all of us are a good example of though how ideology moves through the Hegelian sort of dialectic, and so maybe he'll like overcompensate and convert to Catholicism or become the Muslim or something. And, yeah.
Oh, you Muslim now? Oh, okay.
Do I have your permission to make You Can't Win fan fiction not a sex thing?
Yeah. I don't know. I would say yes, but I don't like. If you link it to me, there's only like a 50-50 chance I'm going to read it because I might get weirded out.
I'll probably read it. If somebody wrote something like that, I'd probably. But yeah, no sex stuff, please. That's not.
Yeah.
Not kosher.
If you're writing Tom's section for a movie scene, the music cue is he's standing and he's got the black flag waving behind him, and then Jules Santana's freestyle starts to play, and he says, "Beef like Mohammed Atta, no plane lessons, cocaine lessons, got enough beef to supply the towers," and then you see a gleam in his eye. Next.
That freestyle is such a classic.
Oh, the Diplomat's freestyle. It's beautiful. I love both of them. I love the one where Jim Jones is wearing a Redskins jersey and goes crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Rhapsody used to be the best.
Oh, the basement. You can't beat that.
All right. Let's do maybe one more here. The worst kind of Muslim is the one who betrays his white race for the Semitic desert cult. Go fuck yourself, baby Finland. All right.
What?
We have an interesting variety of listeners. This podcast.
Yeah. And by the way, we can track who all of you are too. Just down, we have the special FBI account that shows you. So we know.
Has a little link here. I click it and I get like a camera shooting right into your house. So
yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg has tape over his webcam. Maybe you should too, if you're listening to this podcast.
Okay. I'm about to turn 30. How can I recover?
Sleep, diet, exercise, practice proper biomechanics, get all of Kelly Starrett's books, Becoming a Supple Leopard, the running book, the office book, and you can fix your body before it turns into an unsalvageable heap that'll need medical intervention by 52.
That's all great advice. I would also suggest to try reading a lot more. I think it's really easy to carry over habits of being just kind of goofing off and being dumb in your 20s, and that's all fine for your 20s, but I think once you kind of start to get into like old man territory, it's start to like you have to accumulate some wisdom a little bit. So
That's true. I started my 30s by reading Hegel with a transcranial direct stimulation device on my head, and I became a much more serious person. I think he really ripped Hume a new one in phenomenology spirit. And I think a lot of people are accidentally humists and they don't realize it, so they should read Hegel.
yeah,
Yeah.
any advice from you guys, Donald or Tabs?
Embrace it. Aging is pretty cool, except for the physical aspect. Being older and being wiser and calming down is pretty wonderful. So don't fight it. Have a good time with it.
Great advice. Also, small amounts of Botox. Almost don't really need filler. Botox in small amounts. We've learned the lessons of the 90s, 2000s, the 2010s. The esthetician was just trying to sell you more injections. You only needed 0.5 milliliters. It's still in you. It can be seen on MRI. You have jowls in your Instagram photo. That's hyaluronic acid. That's from your filler, and it's drooping. I can dissolve that for a price, but you're still young, just a little bit at a time.
Always hustling.
Yeah, I mean, what Leo said is the basic. What I would say, and I guess Tom too. And like you got. I always think of it like as a plant, but maybe it's more like a pet or something. You gotta think of yourself as like just very, very basic things, like making sure that you're eating and drinking and sleeping and all those very, very basic things. Stuff that like I did not do well in my 20s. Is it's if I kind of the more that I realize that I focus on the basic stuff, it's just like I don't know. It's way more healthy than trying to be perfect at the hardest things you could do or something, I guess. Yeah. So I don't know. Like small ambitions pay off a lot, I guess. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, if you think of each human task you have to do as a slave and you stack them up, you realize it takes many slaves to build a pyramid. The pyramid is the ideal shape for collecting orgone, which will power you spiritually like you would not believe. Just read the beat writers. They were full of orgone, and we're still talking about them today. James Franco's making vanity biopics about them today.
Good
All
stuff.
right. Well, I got one more quick question for you, Donald. Say someone saw someone say that the Witcher video game and the upcoming Netflix show are both the Black Panther for Slavic people. I was hoping Donald could weigh in on this.
So the video game, I played a little bit of that. I think that maybe there's something there, but the actual show, a lot of these actors in it are not Slavic, and that's been kind of a controversy. Like they're not. If you look up their backgrounds, they're like English actors or different things. They're not. They're not from the hood, and I think that like one of the, I don't know, that I mean that's typical too. I mean just of the way that I mean as a related thing, like there's a new Black Widow movie is coming out with Scarlett Johansson, who is Norwegian and Jewish, and
Not
she plays a
Russian,
Russian person,
not
and
seductive.
yeah, and a lot of people in the movie do a Slav face, and they have these fake accents that they put on, and it's just, they wouldn't do that with anything else. I don't think, like if they were playing like Chinese people, they wouldn't, I mean, she's played Japanese people before, right? Like, so she didn't do like a stereotypical accent for that, right?
Much to my dismay, to be honest.
Yeah, I would respect
So-
that more.
It's one of those things where it's going to matter more once Eastern Europe and Russia rises to be like a superpower. I think that you'll start to see more movies with like scenes that are set in Russia and stuff, and Eastern Europe, and then I'll get to see my people on screen, I guess. Yeah.
That'll be a beautiful moment.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Good.
Thanks for
Soviet
joining
stuff.
us this week. Oh, sorry. Were you going to say something, Leo?
I was just gonna say, there's so much good old Soviet cinema and TV stuff. I think people in the Balkans and people in Italy still love it because they showed it on TV there. That was all I was gonna say.
Yeah, that.
There were some
Yeah.
Soviet acting hunks that were beloved by Italian women.
Okay. Well, that wraps it up for this episode, I guess. Thanks for joining us, Agile Tablet and Leo. It's always wonderful to have you guys on.
Wonderful.
And yeah, we look forward to having you back on again sometime. If you guys want to hear more You Can't Win, you can subscribe to our Patreon and get a second episode every week. We often cover books and political ideas and stuff of that nature. And that's a lot of good stuff there. And yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'ma count money. I'ma count cash money. While they playing, man. Yo, my homie Cash really going for 5. Say my prayers, do your thing, I'll be going for mine. Cause we live life to the fullest. 365 nights on the strike, that's a bullet. Now, Uncle Ricky got him up for some change. And it feels like a garbage truck just dumping the pain. All on my shoulders, I'm warning my soldiers. The nights could get chilly, the morning's much colder. I seen summers get cold, and players do it up until the point in that they done and they fold. They can't succumb to the cold. Those are frostbitten up north sitting, it's like some effing lost kittens. Ooh, they getting locked up for carrying, boy. They doing time up in Marion, boy. I respect you. You do your time like Gotti and come home like that Marion boy. Dip said holla. It's Santana, get ready, December. Whoa, messing with the gangsters, riders, Y'all messing with some gangsters, riders, 9/11 survivors. Y'all still want beef, then holler. You think you bout to get your piece and holler. Squeeze the piece when I think it's problems. Do you follow? Young Muhammad Atta, no plane lessons, cocaine lessons. The supply the towers I had before they crashed and divide the towers. I'm hurting, working hard to re-provide the towers. Told you, you messing with a gangster, boy. You messing with some gangsters, boy. Don't do that. You got coke, don't move that. These blocks belong to us, homie. Remember I told you that. As for your boys, it's no more messages. If I see them pumping, I'm stepping in, my weapons in. I'm shooting off to the death of him. If he try to run shots ahead of him, he's already done, and tell him. Welcome to New York City. No, welcome to Dipset City. And thanks to Cam, I'm Harlem's new anchor man. Yes, chump, you should shake my hand. Cause the crew gon' make me too cocky. And I'm not gonna wanna talk to you dudes who move sloppy. So move, watch me. Stand still, don't move, watch me. I'ma show you how to do this, yeah.
I'm gonna break it down real quick, yo. Hey, yo, look, dog, I bought villas, stayed in resort Skrilla. I was store killer, I extort killers. Man, I caught killers, just on Fort killers. Catch frontin', pop, pop, court killers. Who more realer? Weed in the 4-wheeler. F Mike, till you see me, you never saw a thriller. Fist scale, 4 realers. Dirty whore want me to go. Raw will ya? Smart Pisces, fresh from the archdiocese. You got heart, fight me, ideally depart wifey. I'm Anthony, I do things the harder way. Pardon me, escalate, marmalade, mama stayed. And I send the wolf stars a play. And the do copper car today, color pink Chardonnay. And I clap at your man, got the clappers, clap on, clap off, clap at his hands. Only thing he ever clapped was his hands. He'll get butt raped, duct tape the Michelin man, bastard. Get in his van, listen to Ken Maggie. Get in his van, listen to Ken Maggie. Listen, let's bring it back. You know know why? Cause this is the year where cats get shipped in the van. Visits my fam, listen to man, listen. I missed the era of the BMBBs. I was ducking GMDC. Had that scope, aiming to light you. Seen all islands, came Mr. Rikers. Contain, detain, maintain, complaints. Maintain, rain, the game is for lifers. I don't care, I put the flame in the fire. Christian, atheist, you pray to Elijah. Don't play, okay, just pray I don't snipe you. Cause with the SK, doggy, I'm okay. My AK was my AKA before my ABCs that had me A-OK. I'll show you how to net 2 million out your deal. For the right price, I can get you out your deal. Smack your CEO, that's when the tech is soaring. 4 mil from Def Jam and I ain't sell a record for him.